Long before the towering skyline and bustling streets, the land that would become London saw its first human activity in prehistoric times. Archaeological findings suggest early settlements along the River Thames, with evidence of Mesolithic and Neolithic communities dating back thousands of years. But it was the Romans who truly laid the foundation of the city we know today. In AD 47, the Romans established Londinium, a strategic settlement built along the Thames. Within just a few decades, the city flourished, becoming a key trade and political hub. It featured grand structures, an extensive road network, and even an amphitheater. But prosperity was short-lived. In AD 60, Queen Boudica and her Iceni warriors led a brutal revolt, burning Londinium to the ground. Yet, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, the Romans rebuilt it, stronger and more fortified than before. By the 2nd century, Londinium was a thriving metropolis with around 60,000 inhabitants. A massive stone wall, later known as the London Wall, was constructed, marking the city's boundaries and offering protection from invaders. However, as the Roman Empire declined, so did Londinium. By the 5th century, the once bustling city was nearly abandoned. With the Romans gone, Anglo-Saxons began to settle in the area. A new community called Lundenwic emerged near modern-day Covent Garden, thriving as a trade center. But the city faced new threats. Viking raids in the 9th century left it in ruins. Seeking refuge and security, the Anglo-Saxons moved their settlement back within the protective walls of the old Roman city, now known as Lundenburg. Under King Alfred the Great, London was transformed into a fortified stronghold. The Roman walls were reinforced, a new bridge was built, and the city flourished once more. By the 10th century, London had established itself as England's dominant trade centre. But power struggles and Viking invasions continued, shaping the city's destiny. By the time of the Norman conquest in 1066, London was already the heart of England. William the Conqueror, after defeating King Harold at the Battle of Hastings, advanced on London. Despite initial resistance, the city eventually surrendered, and William was crowned at Westminster Abbey. The Normans left their mark, constructing fortresses such as the Tower of London and strengthening the city's defences. As the medieval period progressed, London grew in importance. By the 12th century, it had become England's economic and political centre. The construction of London Bridge in 1209 connected both sides of the Thames, allowing trade and commerce to thrive. However, the city was no stranger to turmoil. The Black Death in the 14th century wiped out nearly half of London's population. Yet despite devastation, the city rebounded, growing stronger with each challenge. During the 15th century, London's influence only expanded, setting the stage for an era of global trade, exploration, and transformation. The dawn of the 16th century ushered in the Tudor era, a time of immense change for London. Under the reign of Henry VIII, the city became the political and religious heart of England. The dissolution of the monasteries in the 1530s led to a redistribution of wealth and land, altering the city's landscape forever. London also saw an explosion in population, growing rapidly as people from across the country flocked to the capital in search of opportunities. By the time of Queen Elizabeth I's reign, London was a thriving hub of trade and culture. The city played a crucial role in the age of exploration, with merchants and adventurers setting sail from the docks of the Thames in search of new lands and riches. The Elizabethan era also saw the rise of the arts, with William Shakespeare and his contemporaries, transforming London into a centre of literary brilliance. The construction of the iconic Globe Theatre in 1599 solidified the city's reputation as a cultural powerhouse. As London entered the 17th century, it continued to grow in wealth and influence. However, the city faced immense challenges, including the outbreak of the bubonic plague in 1665, which claimed thousands of lives. Just a year later, in 1666, disaster struck again. The Great Fire of London engulfed the city, destroying much of its medieval infrastructure. Despite the devastation, Londoners rebuilt their city with renewed vigor. Sir Christopher Wren's architectural genius reshaped the skyline, most notably with the construction of St. Paul's Cathedral. The 19th century marked a period of unprecedented growth and transformation for London. With the onset of the Industrial Revolution, the city became the beating heart of the British Empire, a centre of finance, trade, and industry. Its population surged from 1 million in 1800 to nearly 7 million by the century's end, making it the largest city in the world. However, this rapid expansion came at a cost. While the upper classes flourished in grand townhouses and sprawling estates, despite these challenges, the city underwent remarkable modernization. The construction of an extensive railway network transformed transportation, linking London to every corner of Britain and allowing for suburban expansion. The London Underground, the world's first subterranean railway, opened in 1863, easing congestion in the increasingly crowded streets above. To address the growing city's needs, a new governing body, the Metropolitan Board of Works, was established in 1855 to oversee urban infrastructure. One of its most ambitious projects was the overhaul of London's sewage system, masterminded by engineer Joseph Bazalgette. His innovative design significantly improved sanitation and reduced outbreaks of deadly diseases like cholera. The Victorian era also saw the construction of some of London's most iconic landmarks, including the Houses of Parliament, Tower Bridge, and the Royal Albert Hall. The city's cultural and intellectual life thrived, with institutions such as the British Museum and the Victoria and Albert Museum cementing London's status as a global centre of learning and the arts. As the century drew to a close, London was at the height of its power, the capital of an empire upon which the sun never set. Yet beneath the grandeur, the seeds of change were being sown. Shifts that would shape the city's destiny in the tumultuous 20th century. The end of World War II left London devastated, its streets littered with rubble and its people facing an uncertain future. In 1948, just 3 years after the war, the city hosted the Summer Olympics at Wembley Stadium, a symbol of resilience during a time of hardship. Rebuilding was slow, but the 1951 Festival of Britain marked a renewed sense of optimism. In the post-war years, London faced a housing crisis due to widespread bomb damage. High-rise apartment blocks were built across the city in an effort to provide homes quickly, though these developments later became controversial. Meanwhile, the government encouraged people to move to newly developed towns surrounding London, helping to ease congestion in the capital. Throughout the mid-20th century, London transformed into a global cultural capital. The swinging 60s brought an explosion of music, fashion, and youth culture, with Carnaby Street at the heart of the movement. The city continued to shape global trends in music, from punk rock in the 1970s to Britpop in the 1990s. London also became increasingly multicultural, as immigration from Commonwealth nations brought new communities, cuisines, and cultural influences. However, racial tensions occasionally erupted, as seen in the Brixton riots of 1981. Political challenges also shaped the city, with the abolition of the Greater London Council in 1986 and its reinstatement in 2000, when Ken Livingstone became the city's first elected mayor. The late 20th century saw London's economy shift away from its traditional docks and manufacturing industries. The Docklands, once derelict, were redeveloped into a thriving business hub, highlighted by the rise of Canary Wharf. Infrastructure projects such as the Thames Barrier in the 1980s and the opening of the Jubilee Line extension in 1999 helped modernize the city's transport network. As the 21st century began, London solidified its status as a world-leading city, hosting the 2012 Olympics, expanding its transport system with the Elizabeth Line, and maintaining its role as a financial powerhouse despite the challenges of Brexit. Today, London remains a city of constant evolution, steeped in history, yet always looking forward.